welcome and thanks for joining me. I'm here in the kitchen today with my special guest, Terry Wogan. Now, Terry, there are many, many reasons why I had to have you brought here today. Many reasons. I could go into them, but I'm going to wait a bit. But I have to say, chief among them is that I have a kind of frenzy for the Eurovision Song Contest, and I want you to feed that frenzy.
I'll feed the frenzy if you feed me.
I will. That's the deal, then. I'll ply you with food now, OK? If later you will ply me with Euro twaddle.
I'll ply you with anything you like.
Before I cook, let me introduce the people who'll join us later in the show to talk of things major and minor, because, after all, life is both serious and trivial. First of all, my good friend Maria McCurlane. Serious or trivial, Maria?
Well, Nigella, I like to think I straddle both equally.
You like to think that.
There's much
right.
bigger.
And also joining us is Libby Potter, a journalist who knows how to mix hard news with sheer fluffiness.
Absolutely. How do I do both? I do, somehow.
You do.
I do,
You're
somehow.
a miracle that way. Anyway, welcome to one and all. So you're up for a spot of cooking?
I am, indeed. I'm always available for a spot of cooking. It's just one of those two charred bits of bacon doing it.
They're meant to be charred. They're the bits of streaky bacon. I'm cooking for you. I had to think a bit about what would be the perfect thing to cook for you. And I thought, I hope this isn't going to be the one thing you don't eat, because I was told you'd eat anything. Is that right?
Well, those who know me best will tell you that.
Anyway, what I decided to cook for you, some wild Irish salmon, why not? Some bacon to be crumbled over, and some gherkin to be chopped up on top of it.
I'm not big on gherkins.
Well, you can miss, of course.
Because, well...
Well, it's not only that, Terry, but I'll leave that for a while. I've cooked the bacon.
Memories.
As long as it's only memories. So I'm going to get the bacon out here.
I'd eat it like that, to be quite frank.
You could eat it like this.
I'd eat it...
But there are a few things in life better than a bacon sandwich.
Oh.
That is true, isn't it? I've got very, very crisp bacon. But I would say, since you come from Ireland, maybe I'm making a bit of a supposition here, you will know that the best cooking medium at all is bacon fat.
Yeah, or goose fat.
Do you have a lot of geese there?
No, in Ireland?
Yes.
We're never without a goose.
I'm going to put the salmon in here. Don't encourage him. Now, while I've got the salmon simmering, I'm going to cook you some vegetables. Would that be a good idea?
I'll go on then.
I have got you some peas of the garden variety.
Oh, the old green
peas
are lovely.
that are kind of grow in packets and live in the deep freeze.
Yes,
and
I know them well.
Too. I've got you some mange too because of the fact that you are a French squire.
That's right, a French esquire.
But
you can eat those raw, you know.
You can eat them raw, but I'm fat.
But I can't bear them raw, so I know.
Oh, well, you fed me a very good line there, which is the fact that I'm only going to put them in the hot water for about 30 seconds. These are going in now.
30 seconds?
No, those are about 30 seconds, because they should be more or less raw.
Yeah.
Now, do you cook much? I know you said you're always ready for a spot of
the present Mrs. Wogan is a wonderful, wonderful cook.
And she doesn't want you to interfere?
No, she doesn't want anybody in the kitchen except herself when she's cooking. And, you know, all my children cook. They're all very good cooks, particularly my son Mark. But again, the two of them don't work in the kitchen together. So, you know...
Oh, really? There's fights when that happens?
Too many cooks, as they say.
Well, they do say that, and I suppose they say it for a reason. I'm going to turn this salmon over and let it sizzle away.
Excellent.
So, you eat lots of French food since you have a house in France?
Yeah, we do. We're a kind of foodie family. I mean, we can be very boring about food.
I don't think it's possible.
Our family.
No.
And,
I'm always interested in a conversation about food. I mean, I don't know. I come from a very boringly foodie family, and what we do as we're eating is discuss the meal we had yesterday and maybe the meal we're going to have tomorrow.
That's the thing. We do that quite a lot. Like you'd be in the middle of a rather heavy lunch and you say, well, what's for dinner? that always pleases the present Mrs. Wogan, I can tell you. But, no, we're very keen on food and we talk a lot about it, and it's a major part of my life, although you couldn't tell from looking at me.
Not at all. Now, Terry, I know you don't do a lot of cooking. I thought I might get you just to chop your gherkin.
For you, anything, but...
OK.
I mean, this...
Hands either side. You can't cut yourself with one of these. I know it looks lethal. The men always kind of put their hands here when I hold up one of these.
Yeah.
And doubly so now, I think. But you can just chop away. It's very, very gratifying.
How small do you want these?
Fairly small dice, please, sir.
So, I mean, you see, I'm completely bloody useless at this
point. You just keep going with...
Is this what they call a spoke shave?
Where you come from, maybe. I call it a mezzaluna. Half
A
moon.
mezzaluna.
Half moon. Because of...
mezzaluna, you're out tonight. Are they small enough for you?
No, I'm going to finish it off. I think you've
'Cause, yeah,
taxed
I'm
yourself enough.
extremely clumsy.
No, it's not. I'm very clumsy.
I'm
That
drained
doesn't
of all
matter.
emotion after that.
There we are. Look, nice
Cooking's an
topping here.
exhausting business, isn't it?
You know, I think cooking is actually less exhausting than other aspects of life.
Yeah.
Certainly of domestic life.
I think in my declining years I might take up a bit of cooking. But again, as I say, the present Mrs. Wogan regards the kitchen as her domain.
That's quite right.
And as long as she's prepared to cook for me, I'm prepared to allow her to do so.
You're a generous person. Okay, I'm putting the mange
If
two
I have a fork.
in. That's it, generous. I'll put the mange two in for you.
Excellent.
Because I'm not doing them raw because you don't like them raw.
You're not
I
going
know
to
that.
undercook this salmon, are you, in the French
I'm-
manner? In
No,
my
no,
opinion,
no.
the French can't cook fish or chicken.
You think they undercook?
Yeah, they always leave it pink at the bone. I've had
No.
terrible fights with Frenchmen
No,
over chicken.
I don't like pink at the moment. I quite like salmon slightly undercooked or
Do you?
tuna. I won't do that to you,
But
don't
of course,
worry.
if you were a Michelin inspector and you gave him a well-cooked salmon, you'd take away your stars,
I would
wouldn't
rather slit my throat than be a Michelin inspector. I hate that sort of food.
you? Do
I
you?
want proper home food.
Yeah.
Proper home
Do you like cuisine grand-mère?
I do. My granny's cooking.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to crumble a bit of bacon over this. Are you going to moan about
Have you
the
washed
slightly
your
crumbly-
hands?
Of course I've washed my hands. Of course I have. Thank you for reminding me. Of course I've washed my hands.
Are you sure of it?
Scrubbed.
Let me see your fingernails. Perfect. They are perfect. Sorry, I'm a demanding eater.
You're a demanding man, but I like that. I like a man who demands and a man who'll eat. OK, I'm going to give you a few gherkins. Because you told me you didn't like them and you've been so mean to me, I'm giving you a bit of extra bit. I think that's fair.
Do you know, I've never had a gherkin on a salmon before.
It goes very well, because salmon can be
I'll
slightly
be the judge of
fatty.
that.
Yes, okay, be the
Can
judge
I
of
eat
that.
it?
I'm just going to do the vegetables.
Is
You
this
do
for
that.
eating or is it for show?
It's for eating. All food's for eating.
OK. I'll have a bit of this, and if it's wrong, of course, you'll hear from me.
I will. Now I'm frightened.
Oh, yeah. That's really delicious.
That's very
and
kind of
beautifully
you.
cooked. Well done, Nigella.
Cute, Harry. And I'm going to do the vegetables now. Don't
Oh,
have
the
to stare at
vegetables with this as well.
Well, I know, but I didn't want to rush you.
Was this bad manners, starting to
No,
eat
it
before
isn't.
you were ready with
Do you
vegetables?
know what? It's never bad manners, I think, to start eating. I think it always looks like you're interested in the food, and that's probably...
Do you really think that? Because sometimes I think it's bad manners if somebody starts to eat when they've been served and other people haven't.
Well, I don't know. My mother always said we had to start eating straight away, but we had so many of us. I think she just wanted to get rid of us and get us out of the kitchen. Now, Terry, tit for tat.
I can't really speak to you while I'm eating.
OK, can I talk to you? Can you listen when you eat? I don't know what happens at what stage in life, but as long as you can listen, I can talk.
I've never been very good at that.
Well, what I wanted to say is this. You know, you said that we could do a bit of Euro conversation, which is... I don't know if you know this. I have to admit that I am one of your Euro stalkers, because I did write to you once after Eurovision Song Contest to say that I felt, quite seriously, that I was put on earth to accompany you should Britain ever win the Eurovision Song Contest and we have to host a show. And I practiced at home in front of the mirror for ages in a very like saying, "Good evening, Zagreb." This is and then I was going to say, go into La Rossiche, 12 points, and I did all that for ages.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. Well, don't be too disappointed. And don't be too disappointed if we never get to do the Eurovision together, much as I would love it. Because I don't think the UK is ever going to win it again.
I think it's going to be
I don't think
forever.
any of the Western European countries are going to win it until the Eastern European countries actually grow up a bit and become a bit more democratic and realise that they don't have to vote for each other all the time.
But I like your sourness. I like that about you. It's very...
Sourness.
No, it's good.
Sourness, it's piquancy.
No, your piquancy is what people like about you. See, what I think is very good is, you know how happy people are very irritating. We want to be like them, but we don't really believe it's possible to be like that all the time. So I like the fact, I think you got it just right. This cheeriness, but, you know, with a lot of acerbic wit thrown in, that you're not, you know, you don't want everyone to have too good a time. I like that.
I can't believe it.
No, you thought you were good-natured.
I thought I was Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. You never hear a harsh word out of me. Goodness sake, I'm all sweetness and light.
You are, yeah, sweetness and light and slightly dazzling light. But
Yeah.
you know, do you feel that it's rather nice, the fact that you've now got this career of everyone thinking you're so super cool because you don't really care, you can say anything you want about anyone as you're doing what you do?
But I think it means that your career is drawing to a close. As soon as anybody says, you're an icon, you know then the grave is the next step. But mind you, of course, I broadcast every day to the old coffin dodgers.
But, you know, you've got such a huge audience.
We do. Our core audience would be about between 35 and 55. I mean, there is a large audience that's, even as we speak, falling off the peg. But, you know, so because we lose about 250,000 listeners to the Grim Reaper every year, we have to move slightly to the left. Because
yes. Keep the numbers up.
Yesterday's 25-year-old is 26 today, so we tend to be picking up that audience as well. And the reason I do the morning radio show is because I love it, and because I love the response I get from the listeners. I've got a few togs in the audience.
I know, I can point them out.
They've followed me here, and I'm so flattered by that.
So
and I do love my audience, and I hope they like me.
So your togs are Terry's old geezers.
Terry's old geezers and Tiggs, Terry's young geezers. And the rest of them can clear
and
off.
You're the Togmeister.
Yeah.
Now Terry and I have joined Maria McCurlane and Libby Potter, and I want to talk about something which will affect us all in the end, or sooner or later. Now, when I was in America, I came across this book, and it's called Early Bird, and it will be published here in September, but that's not the point. It's a story of a 28-year-old who went to join a retirement community, and he found the company was great, he loved it, he found being with old people much better than being in his normal sort of contemporary lot. And I sort of thought, well, actually, it was very, very heartening to hear that. Maybe we worry too much about getting older.
Well, I think that's the answer, really, to your question about Radio 2. That's why so many people listen to Radio 2, is they don't mind hanging around old geezers.
I think certainly that book sounds like the novelty of being with old people. When you're in an old people's home and you have to be there without the choice, I think it's probably a little bit different. Won't you agree, Terry? Because I know you're in one at the moment, aren't you?
No, it's not an old people. It's not called an old people's home. It's called a home for the bewildered.
I used to be forced to go and visit my great-grandma in an old people's home, and it was like something out of the Twilight Zone, because I was forced to be there, and they actually used to make me dance. And they would clap, and we'd be in a semicircle, and it was terrifying. But now I think you're right, it's the novelty value and the fact that at both ends of life, people kind of go, stuff it, and do what they want. The young and the old have pretty much thrown in their lot, and they do please themselves. So I imagine it is more fun than hanging out with Oslot.
So, anything's more fun than that.
I don't know, I think still, I mean, the difficulty is that when you're hanging about a retirement home for fun, you can see, no, so what he discovered the joys of shuffleboard, you see, so he did all that, but the thing is, if you've got the healthy joints for 28-year-old, you're going to have a much easier time than if you actually are finding it a bit uncomfortable.
I think that's the thing about getting old, is that you don't really mind mentally. You get growing confidence, as Terry can attest. But actually, what happens is you get so decrepit. Everything starts.
Oh, that's true.
Everything starts to drop, and your knees and your joints, and you can't see and you can't hear, and that's the horrible part about it.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly for women, I think it's awful because you just become invisible. I said you just become invisible. Do you pay lip service to any of the things that are meant to keep you young, like exercise and eating? No, nothing.
No, exercise is terribly bad for you. New thinking on exercise is that the slowest moving creatures in the world are the ones that live longest. I mean, the giant tortoise hardly moves at all and lives to be about 200 years.
That's right.
The cheetah goes at 60 miles an hour and lasts about 3 years. So, exercise can't be good for you. We've only all got a certain amount of heartbeats, haven't we?
Yes.
That's what the new thinking is. And if you start wasting them by running round...
So, maybe there are advantages to getting older anyway. I don't think of sitting around in a comfortable chair, chatting...
Shrivelling.
And then, well, the shrivelling you can do it anyway, that happens, whether you're in comfort or not. So you're sitting around chatting, you're going to have some company at dinner. I do think you don't have to get up for many hours a day. I'd like that.
I've lived my entire life like that. No, honestly.
But I quite like the way they do it in America, where they go to the snowbirds, and it's old people who have mobile homes, and they just follow the sun. And there's a huge community of snowbirds. Have you heard of them?
No,
I think this is a fantasy of yours.
No, it's true. There's a whole community of grey-haired people that just kind of, follow the sun and keep on the move. That's what you need.
That's very,
Not
very
me,
good.
though.
No.
I've never been in a caravan in my life.
Have you ever fancied the sort of Florida retirement scenario with the endless sunshine and as much golf as you can eat?
I'm lucky in that the kind of job I have, they're going to have to shoot me.
Yeah. It may come to that, Terry.
It
may come to that.
Yeah.
But, there's always a bit of retail therapy to look forward to for those of us who aren't going to be age 28 in a retirement home, don't you think? So sit there shopping?
I won't have a pension at this rate, I tell you. It's going to frighten me.
I often find myself these days in the kitchen with a friend, not cooking, but chewing over a problem in their life or mine. It's not just nosiness, or I like to think that makes me want to delve into other people's psyche, but I really do want to talk about the important things in life, which are actually what goes on inside us and our relationships. So I'm joined now by Claire Hearsey. Now, Claire has a problem that I think that many parents will be familiar with. So, Claire, tell us what that problem is.
Basically, I've got 3 young children. Louis, who's a year, Joseph, who's 4, and a kind of typical boisterous boy, and Megan, who's 7, and she's very quiet and shy. And I think I have a bit guilty feeling that I'm leaving her out somewhat.
Do you feel that because so much time is spent with the boys, or because she just doesn't actually ask much of you?
I think a bit of both, really. The boys are very, very demanding. Obviously, Louis, because he's a baby and he needs sort of most of my time. And Joseph, just because of his kind of boisterous character, and he's kind of in the forefront most of the time. And I think that is Megan's character. She is just very quiet and very shy. But I do have that feeling that perhaps, I'm leaving her out, and I don't know if there's anything I can do to kind of bring her into it a bit more.
Are you a worrier about everything generally?
Yeah.
Well, I am too, and I think in a way then, you're always going to worry.
Yeah.
And I do think the thing about guilt is that is part of, motherhood, which is not to say it's justified. I think you feel guilty because, you're obviously someone who wants to make everything right all the time.
Yeah.
And that can't happen. And I think that children do instill that. I don't know whether... I'm sure they don't do it on purpose. I like to think they don't do it on purpose. But it's very difficult to be, I think, a parent without having some sense of failure, at least at some stage.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think that probably you have to be prepared. I don't know, does your 4-year-old slightly control you by making life too noisy and difficult if he doesn't get the attention?
Definitely. Joseph almost needs to be the centre of attention, and so if we're, for instance, going out the door and we're getting all the bits together and it's like, come on, let's go, Joseph just hits a high, and it's kind of, he's running around, and so I almost have to say to him, Joe, go and sit on the, sit down quietly, because otherwise he just takes over, and does the same at meal time. So that's why...
I think you just have to be brave, and you have to think you will have, in the short run it's going to be a nightmare, and you're going to feel very stressed out, but in the long run he will learn to control his demands. And you're right, you don't want a child who's being good and being undemanding in a way to be punished by not getting attention, because that's not going to help you later. But I want to talk to you about some comments that our audience here have written down, because they wanted to think a bit about this. And Lisa from Bisley in Woking says, try reading to all children at night. That way she will be spending time with all of them. Well, I think that's a good point, but I do think you also do need to have a certain amount of attention that you can spend to children separately.
Yeah.
Otherwise, sometimes you can feel a bit run ragged.
Yeah, and I think also because the age differences, Louis, the difference in books make him want chapter books now, and Joseph wants kind of with cars and stuff, and Louis obviously wants a baby book. So I do that, but it's kind of I think there isn't enough hours in the day to go.
Well, I think that's going to be true for a few years. I can tell you that. And Sue from London says, plan the weekend. You should plan the weekend so that you get time with the 2 elder children, each separately, and play areas are good for all ages, letting bigger kids burn off energy while mum's in the ball pond with baby. Yeah. It's a very idyllic picture. I find that family life always starts off in the idyllic picture and then goes hideously wrong.
Something happens.
Now, I think Charlotte's advice here, I don't know where Charlotte is, has given some very good advice, which says, relax, Claire, you're experiencing family life. Eventually things will even out, and provided each child feels loved, no harm will be done. And I have to say, you know, I think that's right. Do you come from a big family yourself?
I don't, and I've got 2 children, and they're older than Claire's. But they really do understand that sometimes one gets attention, sometimes the other gets attention, sometimes even I get attention. And that's how it works. And that's good life skill.
Yes, I think that's right. I think you have to learn that you're not always going to be the centre. But I do think equally it would be helpful for you. And I say it's really more important that you're helped in your feelings of guilt if you could get a bit of time so that you could spend time with Megan by herself, simply because if you're feeling anxious and guilty, she's going to pick up on that. And that, in the end, is the most important thing, I feel, with being a parent, which is somehow to feel if you're coping yourself, then the children will be absolutely fine, whatever. Anyway, well, thanks for coming along today, Claire. I hope that it's helped. And, you know, good luck, family life. You know, you need some luck. Well, I'm always happy to be back in the kitchen, and that's where I am now. I want to make something really sort of soothing and quick, because I think you should always end on a sweet note. And this is my blonde mocha sauce for ice cream, or indeed to pour over a chocolate cake. Blonde mocha because normally mocha is dark chocolate and coffee, and I have got white chocolate. The coffee is instant espresso powder, which I love deeply. It melts very, very easily into anything and has a really intense coffee flavour. Start off with a liberal amount of cream, double cream, put that into a pan, turning that on, and thus melting all the ingredients together. So in goes the coffee, kind of an espresso cupful of coffee will do it. Quite neat, easy enough to remember. And some white chocolate, a lot of white chocolate. I think the coffee really helps here because even if you like white chocolate, you will have to acknowledge that it can be a bit kind of sicky. And I like the balance between really sharp, smoky coffee and creamy white chocolate. And when they've all melted, you will have this quick switch around. You can either pour straight from here, this rather nice, thick, coffee-ish, melty stuff, which will be a bit like putting a latte over an ice cream. But what I do, I like it cold and thicker, so I put it in the fridge. Very, very easy. Luckily, I do have some here. It's always handy. And a quick whisk, and then I have some glorious kind of, it's like butterscotch cappuccino really, to pour over the ice cream. Nice luscious swathe it makes as you pour. Great, so there it is, blonde mocha sauce. Wow. Always no pudding calls people in. Terry, I could. That looks quite up to you. You need some pudding. Sorry, you can't share, but that's very commanded in his contract. He has to get a whole one. Anyway, that just leaves me time to say thank you to Maria McCurlane, Libby Potter, and of course to Terry Wogan. I'm not having him back. See you next time. Goodbye. Spilling it.